Everything you've been told about time is a lie. We've been taught to perceive time a certain way, right? And we just accepted it without questioning. So, in this video, I will explain time from the perspective of quantum physics specifically, okay? Because in classical Newtonian physics, time is absolute, right? It's linear, it's steady, it's the same for everyone essentially, right? Everything moves forward along one single timeline, right? That's what we've been told. But when you look at it from the perspective of quantum physics, at a quantum level, everything in the universe is a probability, including you, by the way. And there is not a single one determined timeline. Instead, we have superpositions, which means that many possible outcomes can coexist until you, as an observer, collapse them into one reality, basically. Okay? And that's the perspective that I'm going to explain today, okay? If that sounds confusing, don't worry, because I will explain everything so that you will understand for sure, okay? Why do you even need to know the nature of time? You might think that time is separate from you, right? And completely unrelated to you. But if you want to manifest effectively and quickly, you need to know what time is and how it works. In our visible and perceivable reality, we have a concept of time. And to manipulate this reality, we need to control it, in a way, of course, or give it an illusion of control. For that, you need to understand reality, okay? And to understand reality, we created this concept that we call time. And the key here is that we people created this concept. It didn't exist until we created it. Because in quantum physics, nothing is actually horizontal, it is vertical. So time is not horizontal, how we usually imagine it, but vertical. And it doesn't move through space, but space moves through time. It's the opposite. And space itself doesn't move through specific fixed time, right? Time itself is the field of probabilities. And what we see as the sequence of events, let's say 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, it is only a specific path collapsed. So once again, space moves through time, or more precisely, our direction in space-time determines how space unfolds along the time vertical line or axis, okay? Like, look at this diagram, and let me explain it. First, how we've been told to perceive time. This is how most people view time intuitively, right? So, linear time, and you are moving through time. That's your past, and that's your future. And that's the present. Past already happened, cannot be changed. Present, it is now, what you experience currently, and future, here. Haven't happened yet or unknown. Time flows, right? From past to present, from present to future. We experience it as a horizontal line, right? As if we're moving through time. Okay? Here we have cause and effect, which is pretty simple, right? What we do in the past influences our present, and what we do in the present shapes our future. So this is how most people perceive time. Basically, like only the present is real. Past happened, and future will happen. And now, what time actually is. From the perspective of quantum physics, time is not linear. It is not a single flowing line where we move from here to here and then to here. Time is vertical. Space is horizontal. And you are here and superposition. You have multiple possible paths through space-time, right? And one collapses once it's observed, meaning that you took that path. And that becomes your current experience. You live in a constant now. Nothing else exists but present, right? That is everlasting. The only real constant is what you're aware of right now. Past is not real, it's a memory. Future isn't real as well, it's a possibility. And present is also not a fixed point in space-time. It is a field of possibilities where your observation or your choice makes only one possibility real. Okay? So, space is all around you, right? It is endless. You don't move through time. Your awareness moves through now and just collapses into a possibility that you choose out of many. The flow of time depends on what you choose. So reality is created by your observation, sort of like picking one option out of many possibilities. Now is the only fixed point. Future is a cloud of possibilities, not a predetermined thing. Past is the outcomes of the previous nows. Now you're gonna ask me, right? But how do probabilities collapse into now? Think of reality as a field of possible outcomes, because it essentially is. Every action or outcome exists as endless possible ways it could ever happen. There's a field of all the possibilities where they all exist simultaneously, where they all exist at the same time, but none are actually fixed yet. They exist as probabilities. Now, when you focus or interact, you select one path out of that endless possibilities. And the one possibility you observe or choose out of many becomes your reality, okay? For example, you toss a coin. Before you can see, it is both heads and tails all at once, which is potential. Once you see, only one possibility becomes real. And the fact of observation it helps it collapse into one certain outcome. Also, I have to mention that every potential has a probability. Some are more likely to happen than others. Your state or your frequency can affect that probability. For example, if you are in the low vibrational states, it will affect it negatively, and high vibrational states affect it positively, okay? So, when you observe the probabilities, they collapse into one path that becomes your now. And after that, what was collapsed becomes your past. And from the next now, you get a new field of endless possibilities. At a quantum level, there is no motion in time really. When you experience time passing, it is a sequence of collapses in your awareness, right? So each now chooses a possibility, and then the next now becomes the next, and so on, okay? So reality is not you moving through time, picking outcomes or making choices. Observation or your awareness collapsing into a possibility is what creates time, okay? And guys, when I say past is not real, I don't mean that it never happened. I mean that it just exists in a different way that the present does. Whatever happened to you 5 years ago, it was real then. It was real. You remember it because your brain stored memory patterns, right? You may even have physical proof like pictures, photos, or objects. So when you remember something, you're reconstructing information stored in your brain in the present. So the memory exists now in your brain. And our brain stores information continuously in the present, right? Adding more every moment. It removes them and then adds them. So that what creates the illusion of past. So whatever you feel now, thinking about the past, is just your present experiencing of the information stored in your brain. Okay? Like, imagine you're the projector. You're generating new lights as the projection happens, right? And they change constantly. But the slides are not fixed, and you generating them moment by moment. Every collapse probability is the next slide. And slides change, but you can never reverse and go back into the previous slide, right? Once the slide has been projected, it becomes information or your memory, okay? And you cannot go back because the projector already generated a new slide. So reality always updates forward because state of the universe keeps changing, okay? Sometimes, it feels like memory of the past doesn't even belong to you anymore because that version of you doesn't exist anymore. Our beliefs and identity, they change all the time, right? And you who lived that moment 5 years ago doesn't even exist anymore. The current you is the continuation of that, not the same exact person. Sometimes when I read my diary I wrote years ago, I think that was actually me. I cannot believe it because it doesn't even feel like me anymore. Because I don't even think like that anymore. It's so strange, yeah, because I remember the event, but I don't feel like the same person who experienced it. So I start to think about it like something that happened throughout the story and not as something that happened to the person I am now, right? That's so strange. Even though you change, but your brain maintains the narrative, yeah? Because without that narrative, you wouldn't even feel like you have identity. So somehow yourself is many different versions of you over time, stitched together and not the same identity, yeah? It's not that I'm the same person moving through time, but more like I'm many different versions of me that keep appearing, connected through time. And if you understood what I just said, you just became more self-aware of how your identity actually works. So congrats. Anyways, you in the past and you now are not literally completely different people, but not the same person either. Your body changes, right? Your values change, your beliefs also change. So even though you're changing every day, you will never stop being you. Everything you do now, you do from who you are now, right? But the person you are now was shaped through time by past experiences like negative or positive or memories and so on. And your brain collects and forms patterns. And let's say, if I do this, this happens. If I do that, that happens. So when you want to do something, your brain starts scanning its memory for patterns like, based on what happened before, what's most likely to happen again? Your brain is actually really good at predicting outcomes. It doesn't see the world completely fresh every moment. It uses past experiences to predict what will happen next. And it also interprets the present through that prediction. For example, if you've been rejected many times before, your brain learned that women or men reject me. So now, when you meet someone new, your brain predicts, this will end up in them rejecting me. So now, subconsciously, you start to expect rejection. And because of that, you start to behave differently, right? Maybe become more defensive or act insecure. And people feel all that, It may end up that way actually because your behavior is now different. Because you're not meeting them freshly, but you meet them through the lens of past experiences. And you know what? A lot of times when we learn about this, we become more aware and start seeing each moment as something completely new because you stop automatically running on prediction patterns, right? So the negative experiences you've been through whether it is something you've done or something that was done to you, they don't define you, you know? They don't define you now. It helped to shape you, but the only place where it's alive is your memory. If you choose to think about it, of course. And when you do think about it, that person doesn't exist anymore. Okay? You cannot forget it, but you can try to understand it, accept it, and stop identifying with it, you know? Sort of like Carl Jung's integration of the shadow. Integrate it, that version of you, integrate it, and move forward, because that mistake was just an experience and not a definition of who you are. And we don't actually ever make mistakes. The choice you made back then was the best decision you could make with the information you had at that moment, where you were then energetically, in a state you were in, or in the level of awareness you had back then. Because how can you make a certain correct decision using the information that you didn't have yet? You do have it now because of that experience, right? But back then, you couldn't make a decision based on the information you have now, because back then you didn't have it yet. Okay? So now when you think about it, you think, I shouldn't have done that. I should have done this instead. But these thoughts are coming from you now, the one that knows better, okay? The past version of you didn't have that. She did all she could do, and now she knows. And it wasn't a mistake. It only looks like one now from your future current perspective. And you know, we always say, I wish I would have known. I wish I would have done it differently. But the action you took felt like the best option then in that moment, even if later it became the biggest mistake of your life. Okay? So even if you could repeat that experience, trust me, you would have done the same exact thing with the knowledge you had back then. So have some compassion for the past you, okay? She was trying to do the best she could do with the limited knowledge she had. Once you see it in that way, you'll realize that you are not your memories. You are the one who notices when they appear. You are the one who's always present now, and your memories are just history, okay? And even though your memories and experiences pass or keep changing, the observer never changes. It is always there. Let me explain. For example, yesterday a friend of yours bought you a cupcake. You were really, really happy, and today you remember it. And when you remember that moment now, you are not the same person receiving a cupcake. You're this present version of you looking at the stored information, your memory, yeah? You will never be that person again, because you're always going to be this person now. The person you were yesterday had different thoughts, different state, and so on. Present you is no longer the same person. Once the memory passes, once the moment passes, it doesn't keep existing anywhere. What's left, it's just traces of memory and consequences that it caused in your life, if any, you know? And that's actually what you can use to manifest effectively, okay? You can use the future version of you, the one that you want to become, okay? So you can visualize it in a certain way in your head and attract your desires this way, because your brain treats imagined experiences the same way it treats memory. So when you visualize your desired future, your brain activates the same circuits as when you actually believe it. So through imagining the future version of you, the one that you desire, it changes your expectations, how you behave, your energetic state. So imagining the future version of yourself in detail will make you move towards it naturally. It doesn't collapse probabilities in space-time, but it makes your brain believe that the future already happened, and your behavior changes and attracts certain circumstances that are aligned with your desired outcome. So you could say that you train your brain to move in that direction. Just like you are never the same person you were in the past, you are not forced to stay the person your brain predicts you will become based on your past, okay? You can update the prediction using your imagination to help create change. For example, this is you now. You don't have money, and you didn't have money growing up. Your brain stored that information and predicts that in the future you won't have any money either, based on the past, yeah? Now, this is you in the future. You have lots of money and you're financially free. You are happy and excited. You have more money than you can ever spend. You have a husband or a wife that loves you and everything else that you want. So you can use your brain to be this second version. So you can use your brain to be this first version. Remember your past and keep your memory as a prediction of the future. Or you can be this and use your brain to predict the future based on your updated stored information, based on your updated stored brain patterns. So in other words, you can keep wasting your time identifying yourself with the past, or you can identify yourself with the version of you the one that has everything and the one that you want to become. You can visualize, imagine a scene of yourself that already has everything to hack your brain and install new updated set of predictions and expectations, okay? Like, you can visualize a short scene, feel the emotions that person feels, look around, see textures and see color, feel the air, smell the room, check your surroundings, think what she's thinking in that moment. You're experiencing all of that now, and your brain is tricked because, as I said, time is not linear, right? It is not gradual. You are the only constant in this super surface of the present space-time. So you can stay the person you were in the past with the same emotions, with the same state and vibrations, or you can become this, sort of like remembering your future with the updated state and vibrations, okay? So now you don't have to struggle anymore, okay? Now you know better. Now you can start experiencing your present as you from the future. And now you probably want to know how long it will take, right? And my answer is this. There isn't one specific time range. Everyone is different. Small shifts sometimes take days, and let's say real changes in your identity, those sometimes take weeks to months. If we're talking deep-rooted patterns accumulated over years and years, those can take longer because the old patterns are really, really strong. But it totally depends on you and different factors like repetition. It's like a new habit, you know? It doesn't change you immediately, but it can work quickly if you do it consciously and consistently. And if you combine visualization with doing something new, something aligned with your desired future, or when you start different reactions, observing what you're thinking and feeling and why you're doing all that, that will make it work much faster, because then your imagination and your real life start to actually match, right? And detachment will come naturally because you will believe it so strongly that the version of you that already has everything, she doesn't even need anything anymore. She already has it. I have to also mention one disclaimer. Time is not absolute, right? And reality doesn't automatically give you what you want. Not everything is under one person's control, yeah? Other people have free will as well. Let's not forget that. So it influences results, but it doesn't guarantee them. But if you're in a state of a person that wants it, you will keep wanting it. And if you shift into the state of the person who has it, you have a real chance here, okay? Use this information to improve your life, okay? You can use this to attract anything, literally, anything you want. I was also slightly careful before, so you don't have any delusions or heightened expectations, but it really does work, and even better than what you probably assume. It can absolutely change your life, okay? If you didn't understand fully, watch it again, okay? And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments, okay? Bye.